Will the bird flu lead to lockdowns? And what's happening with Stargate and the mRNA vaccines? Dr. Peter McCollough joins us today to get to the bottom of all these things, some of the recent executive orders, and more. Don't miss one moment today on the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Welcome to the Endtime Show. We definitely need your help today to share this video. Make sure you're engaging in the chat, and of course give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, whatever's available for you. Do that because the establishment doesn't want you to hear what we're going to be talking about today. So do that right now. Before we get to Dr. McCollough, I want to remind you that Birch Gold has released their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era, with foreword by Donald Trump Jr. So to get your free copy along with the Birch Gold's free information kit, visit birchgold.com/endtime. Birch Gold's still the company that we trust to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. There's no obligation, only information. Go to birchgold.com/endtime. All right, well, Dr. McCollough, welcome back to the Endtime Show. It's always an honor to have you.
Vince, I think we're getting closer to the end time since the last time I came. And Doug,
amen.
Wow, so many stories to cover. It's just, it's mind-boggling. We get up and it's just one new development after another.
That's how we feel every day as we prepare for these shows.
Absolutely.
We're going, there's too much to talk about.
Yeah.
We could do a 24-hour show probably.
We probably could.
And with your contribution, Dr. McCollough, you're always a fan favorite. Everyone loves you when you're on. We look forward to when you're here, so we certainly appreciate it. And of course, right now, the inauguration just occurred. And bird flu. We've been hearing a lot about bird flu lately. What's actually going on with bird flu?
Yeah, let's cover bird flu since it's essentially been in a slow-rolling 4-year breakout since late 2020, early 2021. McCollough Foundation, which I lead, published a peer-reviewed manuscript on this after very intense scholarship, and this will be disappointing to many Americans, but the current strain of bird flu, which has expanded beyond chicken into mallard ducks and now into mammals, cows, is a product of gain-of-function research, which means it's been manipulated by man through what's called serial passage of getting it to spread among mallard ducks. And it looks like the work was done in the USDA Poultry Research Center in Athens, Georgia. We have this nailed down. Our paper's been published in Poultry and Wildlife Sciences. It's not been challenged by our agencies. And there are 2 collaborating labs, one at University of Wisconsin School of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Karakoa, and then Erasmus University in the Netherlands, Dr. Ron Fauci. That's the circle, heavily funded by the U.S. government, Gates Foundation. They were, quote, trying to get ahead of nature and figure out what to do if it got into mallard ducks, because the mallard ducks fly everywhere. Mm-hmm. And the answer is obvious. It will spread from farm to farm very quickly all across the country like we've never seen before. Right. And that's the genesis of it. The good news is it's a very mild infection. I attended the University of Arkansas Bird Flu Summit, of which the estimate was about 10,000 poultry have died of the infection itself, yet tens of millions of healthy chickens have been killed due to a process called culling. It's right. Biosecurity. So if they think one chicken's sick, they're not sure. They kill millions. And that's what's driven up the price of eggs and poultry. In humans, there's been less than 100 infections, mild pink eye, one serious case, and it was a man in Louisiana. Very few details on it. He was over 65. He was said to have medical conditions. He had dead birds in his backyard. And as far as we can tell, he received no early treatment. He may not have even received good standard of care in the hospital, and sadly he died. So we're at 1 U.S. bird flu death not adjudicated, and we have this outbreak which is still slowly rolling. Emergencies have been declared in Colorado, Michigan, California. The most common response, though, is nothing practical to prevent the infection, simply killing the animals and to get the public ready for another vaccine.
So back in July, Biden gave Moderna $176 million. Then, of course, we had the bird flu summit in October, and you're saying you attended that. So it feels like an orchestrated attack, or maybe not. Maybe attack is too strong to say, but it feels orchestrated. It's all coming together like this.
It feels contrived.
Yeah.
It feels contrived. And sure enough, listen, Moderna's earned tens of billions of dollars through non-compete contracts from the U.S. government. They have plenty of money to develop their own vaccines. They don't need the U.S. to pay them to develop a messenger RNA vaccine, but it doesn't stop there. We have a CSL Seqirus vaccine. It's an antigen-based vaccine, and that one in the clinical studies in normal human volunteers, more normal human volunteers died of the vaccine than in placebo. That should never happen. The current bird flu vaccine, which people are pushing for, we saw Deborah Birx out recently and Dr. Leanna Wen, they're both pushing the Biden administration. We need to get this out to the public. No, it doesn't look safe. Yet the European Commission already bought the CSL Seqirus vaccine, and they're injecting it in humans in Finland. My advice to our dairy workers and farm workers is stay clear of these vaccines, stay clear of government testing of bird flu in animals, no more culling. Natural immunity is the way to go. Both the animals will get natural immunity and humans will get natural immunity, as they have done for hundreds of years.
So it sounds.
Let me ask this real quick, because I've gotten questions about this recently. Because of the situation, like you said, they're killing healthy birds because one bird gets this flu and then they kill all the chickens. You're saying that they will develop a natural immunity to it, just like a human being would. Well, now they're saying that this could cross over into the beef industry and begin to kill our cattle. And so a lot of people are concerned because they're thinking, okay, this is the way they're going to try to control our food and keep us from being able to eat what's healthy for us and have the beef and eggs and things like that. And they'll start, especially with the Gates Foundation being involved in this, they'll begin to feed us the processed stuff that they've made in the labs, the things he's making out of bug parts and all that. Do you see that as that could be part of this gain of function that was kind of the plan, is to do that?
It's impossible to know, but your analysis that food security is at risk is a good one. It has spread into the cattle. It doesn't particularly make them sick. What's creating the scare is all this unnecessary testing. They're relying on the PCR test, the preliminary, polymerase chain reaction test. And you know it's notoriously unreliable and generates false positives. Can you imagine wrestling down chickens and trying to stuff a Q-tip in them and all the muck and guck? And so a paper in New England Journal of Medicine by Garg and colleagues was revealing, it turned out that the human cases of getting the pink eye, almost every case occurred during culling, meaning the poor guy who gets the assignment, here, take all these chickens and murder them. And you know how they murder them is they spray them down with this foam and they suffocate. It's just awful. And the birds are flailing around and all this dander comes up. That's how they're getting it. Yeah. So we wouldn't have human cases if we didn't unnecessarily kill the chickens. Natural immunity sweep in. And think about this. Even if you kill an entire flock of chickens, like we had Sid Miller, our ag director in Texas, told Cal-Maine, killed 2 million chickens in Amarillo. Well, that is very unwise, because the mallard ducks who are free to fly into it, they're going to fly and reinfect again and reinfect again. Yeah. It's a hopeless, and so you can see the ineptitude of our public health officials. They are not coming out and telling Americans that this is circulating because of the mallard ducks, and that you don't see mallard ducks dead in ponds all over. They're fine.
Yeah.
So it seems ridiculous to ask you this in this room, knowing what we believe here. But there are people that are still concerned about the potential of lockdowns, believe it or not. So how do we prepare for potential lockdowns?
Well, we have to be sure that, A, we don't get sick, and we're confident we're not going to get sick. Many people went into COVID lockdowns because they weren't sure. They were told, listen, they could be the next victim. So we know with bird flu, for instance, that the nasal sprays and gargles are very effective against all forms of influenza. So that would be dilute povidone iodine, xylitol-based products, 2 squirts twice a day, sniff it back, spit it out, gargle with xylitol, which is spray, scope or Listerine, do it twice a day. I went to a big event on Monday, and I just did a couple extra squirts today. And I've interviewed people on my show who do this routinely. They don't miss a single day. They haven't been sick in a year. I know one person who hasn't gotten sick in 20 years because he's been so religious. Now, I've been dedicated to doing this for 6 months, and I am telling you, I'm having the first 6 months of my adult life where I didn't get a cold.
Wow.
Because I was sick all the time.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you, it's good nasal hygiene. If I was a worker, I would be using probably the iodine-based wellness company. We feature Immune Mist, but other brands include Cofex RX or Betadine, or even homemade, a couple drops of iodine in some salt water. I would be doing a nasal spray and gargle twice a day. You can even do some very dilute iodine saline eye drops. It's perfectly fine, homemade. So these homemade solutions, and at Wellness Company, we have the Contagion Kit, which contains the first-line drugs that we need if someone gets bird flu. Now, recently, we converted from the government controlling all the bird flu tests to having LabCorp, one of the commercial labs. They actually have a bird flu PCR test you can do on humans. I haven't had to order it in anyone. I think I would just empirically treat because the drugs are so safe.
Yeah. This would have been really nice to have in the beginning of 2020. It may have existed then, but it just wasn't as known. Okay, it didn't even exist. And is this why you guys developed this at the Wellness Company?
Absolutely.
To combat potential, I guess, lockdowns and then be able to navigate even the bird flu.
Think about this. What if you were 80 years old, you were a senior citizen in independent living with heart and lung disease, you know, frail, and you were told a deadly virus swept in from China and you had to lock down, there's no treatment, you can't get a hold of your doctor says they're not going to treat you. Even if you got a prescription, the pharmacist said we won't fill it. That's the reason why people need to have emergency medical kits. Just be prepared. They're prescribed in, you know, the individual's name ahead of time. So you're in a record with a doctor. Wellness Company has got the telemedicine group. And there's a guidebook and a doctor available if need be. But what we've done is we've liberated the patient. You're not dependent on the next pharmacy. You're not dependent on getting a hold of a doctor who may not treat you. You can handle this yourself. And we keep getting ahead of the narrative on these outbreaks.
I can imagine that scenario because we lived through that.
Yeah.
We all experienced
It's not fictional, it's real.
That really happened.
Yeah.
So the Contagion Kit, is that the best option for bird flu, COVID, anything like that?
Yeah, so bird flu, seasonal influenza, and COVID, that's specifically what the kit is for. It contains in it, I got it out since it's a little hard to get out, the nebulizer, which has budesonide in it and will allow nebulization in that emergency respiratory treatment. And some people will need this right away. Before the show, I told you sadly about a patient I had recently who died of COVID. She actually died of acute COVID. And I think cases like that, if we could intervene early enough, we had a chance. In her case, I had all the drugs ahead of time, and we did everything we possibly could, but she went down quickly. And the point I'm making is it's still a severe disease for our very frail and elderly, and particularly those who have not had the infection before.
So the Contagion Emergency Kit is the way to go.
Flu and COVID.
Perfect.
There's broader emergency kits. There's an aquamarine kit for home problems, urinary tract infection, yeast infection, bronchitis. There's a red kit that helps in the field. We took it recently skiing. We needed to use it for an injury someone had. And you know, the injuries always happen in the condo, not out doing something amazing.
It's true.
And then there's a green kit that's really for the traveler's diarrhea. You go on cruise boats. What a lot of people are doing, especially preppers. Are either one of you guys preppers? Would you say you're a prepper?
You're on the right show, Dr. McCollough.
Really? You're a prepper? You guys are ready? Then go to the Wellness Company, twc.health, and check out the field kit. The field kit, I should have brought mine. It is like a tackle box that has everything in it from all the kits, and you are ready to go. A lot of the preppers, you know, they like something bigger and badder and stronger, and that way they're ready. The field kit has everything in it.
Look at Doug. He's a bigger and badder type guy.
Yeah. But
I like bigger and better.
You know, people have said, what if we had more preppers in the wake of Hurricanes Helene and the big one in was it Milton in
yes.
Yeah, yes. Milton, Helene. What if we had more preppers? Because when I talked to first responders, virtually everybody they fished out of their dirty water, they had infected cuts. They had lacerations. The urgent cares were closed. The hospitals were closed. Couldn't get antibiotics. Had no way to clean a wound. These kits even float. So if people had kits, they could have managed better. And some people got sick, and sadly, some people passed away. So we do think the public is sophisticated enough that they can self-diagnose and treat with some assistance.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you have doctors available if they needed to talk to a doctor about it too. So it's very good. I know my wife and I have a kit at home. We ordered one this year for us to have, and so they got all her information and everything. It's really designed for her. Right. Because it's designed for each individual person.
Yep. You can't prescribe it and be sharing it around, so it's one per person. But as soon as you use it, so one of my media friends, Brandon House, who you may know, Brandon got really sick, and he was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, about ready to go to the emergency room. His wife pulls out the kit. She follows the guidebook, gets Brandon some medications, and then he revives. And sure enough, as soon as somebody has been revived, I told Brandon, one use of this compared to going to the ER or urgent care, you save a fortune. You save the miserable experience of being in the emergency department or the urgent care. And in many ways, people develop a sense of self-confidence that they got this.
Yeah. So we're glad you brought some light to that. And the wellness company's been very generous to the end-timers out here. Actually, if you go to twc.health/endtime right now and use code ENDTIME, you're going to get 10% off. So the Contagion Kit is going to help you with, they're going to help you with the flu, with COVID, and so much more. But like Dr. McCollough mentioned, there's a number of other kits there. So twc.health/endtime. Go there now. Be sure to use code ENDTIME to get 10% off. So
one more point is Wellness Company has memberships. So memberships go as low as $10 a month. One is $49 a month. The other one's $99 a month. But at $49 and $99 a month, now supplements come free and prescription drugs come free. And so if you're on some prescription drugs, I'm on some personally, I'm older than you guys, for blood pressure and some other problems. I'm a member, and those just come free now. I don't have to go to CVS or Walgreens and pay anything. They come with the membership. And the thing about the promo codes, so you can put multiple promo codes when you check out. So use your end time code because you want the show to get credit and the person to save money. But feel free to use the other codes. So as you sign up as a member, for instance, so I'm a big fan of saving money, like most people are. And so make sure you load up. When you hit checkout, make sure you have your codes in there. My wife did it one time, and she was like rushing, and she clicked it, and it was too late. Once you do that, you can't go back and get a discount. She goes, well, call them up. I said, it doesn't work that way, honey. It's gone. That money's gone. But load your codes in ahead of time. Everybody should use your code. What's the code again?
ENDTIME.
ENDTIME.
Let's show them the kit one more time and get it on camera good there so they can see
take
what
a look
that
at
kit
these
looks
kits.
like.
They're small, they're easy, and people travel with them. And I can tell you, as soon as you have it in your suitcase, something's going to happen. We took a trip to Glacier National Park. Sure enough, someone made an unwise choice in something, again in the lodge, and so we needed the emergency kit, and it just came up on a ski trip. So we've already spared 2 trips to the urgent care, and you know what? They've paid for themselves.
Wonderful. The website's easy, twc.health/endtime, and use code ENDTIME and whatever other codes you can use as well, it sounds like. So stack those on top of each other to save you some money at twc.health/endtime. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, Dr. McCollough, if you're willing. President Trump just signed an executive order removing the United States from the World Health Organization. Are you celebrating that? Are you opposing that? What do we need to know?
Big celebration. So I was on primetime news this week on...
I saw you on Laura Ingraham.
Laura Ingraham, be on a lot of shows on this. The implications are huge. So, the World Health Organization is an organization that has 20,000 employees. They have 193 member nations, and they have a disproportionate funding model where countries like the United States and Germany and China really, toe the line. The Gates Foundation funds it extensively. But we have been putting pressure on the World Health Organization to do better in terms of their effectiveness and transparency. Where does the money go? So our share of this was $6.8 billion a year. It was going up more than 10% per year with very poor accountability of this. Trump said, we're getting ripped off.
Right.
But Trump was paying attention. There were worldwide protests in Geneva at the World Health Assembly, which is their big annual meeting last year, and all over the world, and they were protesting their Pandemic Treaty Alliance and international health regulations,
Right.
for which had tremendous implications for countries. And we are breathing a sigh of relief today that we are not under the oppression of these agreements, which
Right.
the WHO was essentially trying to steal dominion over all plants, animals, and humans, to the point of they had mandatory surveillance mechanisms. We're not talking about surveillance for new viruses or bacteria. We're talking about surveillance on you and on you. And Laura Ingraham was pulling this out, saying, listen, our show wouldn't even be on the air
Right.
if we had this, because this would be codified into law, this human surveillance of quote, who's spreading misinformation, and who's deciding all this, the WHO. They wanted the ability to declare pandemic emergencies and shut down countries. They wanted the ability to essentially force mass vaccination across the world as a emergency countermeasure. I didn't know any Americans that wanted that, and I'm so happy to be out of it. What I told Laura Ingraham is, in the response back from the WHO to Trump, it says, we're sad to see you go. We've been working on this for 7 years to try to become more transparent and more cost effective. And I told Laura, they just got a 20% budget cut.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to make it real easy for them to be cost effective. Largely this is for developing countries anyway. And I can't think of, as a doctor, I can't think of a single example where I relied on the World Health Organization for anything.
Well, we talk about all these world unions that are part of the whole global government, really is what it is. Because when you talk about WEF, you talk about the WHO, all those things are related to the UN. They're branches of the UN and everything. And so we did 2 programs on this 2 different years because of the fact that we saw that they were trying to take our sovereignty away, and be able to do that, to be able to declare anything that they declare an emergency. It didn't even have to be a virus or anything. It could have just been like gun control. And they could have said, well, there's been too many shootings in Chicago, and so we're taking all your guns away, and we can lock your country down and do those kind of things. So we were kind of exposing all that, hoping that everybody was catching on to what was going on, because it appeared like the Biden administration was really pushing for that pandemic treaty, almost as to say, we surrender our sovereignty to the UN.
Well, the left was fully aligned with this. So I wrote my representatives at the time about the WHO. Formerly, I wrote Colin Allred, who ran for the Senate and failed. And he wrote me a nice letter back saying he was fully subscribing to the WHO to have these authorities. And we saw some of this in Europe about farming. That the animals were changing the environment and changing the nitrogen content and the soil, and so therefore we needed to shut down farms. And you saw the farmers spraying manure all over and closing down the roads, and they were protesting. No organization can have sovereignty over individual nations. And great credit to Frank Gaffney and the group at the Sovereignty Coalition. They played a big role. Dr. Tess Lowry at the World Council for Health. Everyone mobilized. They went over to Geneva. They were protesting. Philip Cruz, a Swiss lawyer, sued the WHO for this. A group of lawyers met there, a global group. And I think the continued pressure on this, Trump made the right move. And now you know, Trump is, you know, and people have different views about President Trump, but the one thing he really lives by is the art of the deal. And as soon as you do something like this, now we have leverage over what you call is this kind of globalist type of cabal. So let's talk. Now, having said this, I want people to understand that the WHO clearly was complicit in the pandemic disaster. It's very important. They were supposed to be doing biosurveillance. Well, where was the biosurveillance in Wuhan to let us know that something was going wrong? Nothing.
Right.
When it came to an investigation of Wuhan, Rear Admiral Brett Giroir, who's from Dallas, he went to medical school at Southwestern, he nominated 3 independent scientists to go to Wuhan. And Tedros Ghebreyesus said, no, we don't want them. We want Peter Daszak, who's the now debarred head of the EcoHealth Alliance. Daszak was part of the consortium with Ralph Baric and Fauci and others that created SARS-CoV-2. Daszak knew the Wuhan lab well because he was part of the creation of the virus. Wow. So they invite him over as an inspector, and Daszak looks around and he goes, you know, I don't know where this virus came from, but it wasn't the lab he had been to countless numbers of times. Wow. And so this was a giant cover-up. The WHO played a role, and they played a role in this, what's called infodemic, this spreading of fear through what's called national focal points. This is very important. They have 193 member states. They have over 100 NFPs, national focal points. Ours in the United States is called PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. And through this network, that's how they came out worldwide with messages all over the media on the same day. And you probably remember a couple of these. Early on, there was a message. It hit every single station in the world at the same time, and the phrase was, no one is safe. Wow. Mm-hmm. It was in Japan, Russia, China, United States. Another one later on, crisis of the unvaccinated. Yeah. Those came through WHO communication systems.
Well, we're coming up on a break, but we've got to talk a little bit more about that and the Dr. Fauci pardon and Stargate and so much more. So we're going to have to hurry through this. Don't forget to check out our friends at firstcup.com. Again, you can use code Endtime there as well and get one of their 11 different roasts. You get 10% off. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to talk about with Dr. McCollough. We'll be right back after this break.
A reminder of the breaking news this hour. At least 22 people are reported to have died in a strike in Gaza.
The rise of Islam.
We're trying to bring answers for so many families desperately.
Is the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict World War III? So let's talk about the 4 horsemen. What do these horses symbolize? These are the 4 spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. In the end time, the true people of God will not be weak, anemic, and defeated. These prophesied events are revealing we are quickly approaching the time of the Great Tribulation right now.
Now streaming on OneSource and available to order at endtime.com/screen. Go to endtime.com/screen or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the Endtime Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end-time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell and Dr. Peter McCollough. We're so happy that you've joined us today. I do want to remind you that you can go to endtime.com/events. Dave Robbins will be in Walnut, Mississippi in the coming weeks. All the details are listed there. He's going to be talking about America's prophesied future and breaking prophecy news. It's a 2-day conference, so go to endtime.com/events to make plans to join us there in Walnut, Mississippi today. All right, Dr. McCollough, we've got a lot to talk about. Hopefully we get to it all, but if we don't, that's okay. I've got to hear your thoughts because I know you have history with Dr. Fauci, and he just got pardoned by President Biden back to 2014. I'm just wondering what you thought about all that.
Well, he was preemptively pardoned. This is the new. This is the new feature of the pardon. Pardon or clemency deals with somebody who has committed a crime and now they've been absolved of it. In this case, no crimes have been prosecuted or been convicted, and here we are that if a crime is uncovered, that there's a get out of jail free card essentially, and it goes for 10 years. So this is unprecedented. Legal scholars will challenge this, whether or not this can even be done. But the public is asking, why, Dr. Fauci? What crimes could he have committed? In my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, and in books by Robert F. Kennedy and Senator Rand Paul and Peter Breggin, they all outline two broad crimes of Fauci and those who really were involved, the White House task force, and we can go through a wider circle. First crime is fraud, that we were deceived, and I think people accept that readily. But the next one is tough, and it's mass negligent homicide, meaning that people died via two mechanisms. One was the suppression of early multi-drug treatment, of drug protocols like McCollough protocol that we knew were safe. We knew that they were effective in the best comparative data. They were supported by the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, so we had consensus, evidence-based consensus on this. They were suppressed. Even our monoclonal antibodies were suppressed. And then the second mechanism how people died was through the COVID vaccines. They weren't safe. And as we sit here today, the United States, the CDC is recognizing and recording 19,000, I believe, 148 deaths, U.S. deaths. About 1,150 die right in the vaccine center. They don't even make it out of the vaccine center. Another 1,200 die the next day. And that number is underreported probably 30-fold. So as we sit here today, we are looking at about 560,000 Americans having died of the vaccine, and no acknowledgement from anybody in these circles. No acknowledgement anywhere in the world. We're up to 14 studies demonstrating that mortality is going up all over the world.
So why go back to 2014?
That's a very interesting question. And I asked this today on my show with Malcolm Out Loud, and Malcolm said there is something about 2014 where there were several developments in the Obama administration, because you're right, it spans part of Obama, all of Trump, and then all of Biden. And now it's interesting that in this pardon for Fauci, other co-conspirators not named, like his boss, Francis Collins, his understudy, David Morans, Dr. Ralph Barrick at UNC Chapel Hill, Dr. Peter Daszak. So, by implication, many will be brought in if we have investigators. I think we need a special prosecutor for the origin of SARS-CoV-2, one on the suppression of treatment and one on the vaccine. I think we need 3 special prosecutors if we will get pandemic justice, which so many Americans are asking for.
Do you think some of that 2014 was during gain-of-function research for COVID? Do you believe that he, because he went on trial there with the Senate and everything, and they were asking him all these questions, and he denied having any gain-of-function research going on. Do you think some of that was happening maybe in 2014, or maybe the plans for this were developing during the Obama administration? What would you think?
I don't know what that 10-year inflection point is, but I can tell you the PrEP Act was 2005. That was preparing for this. That DARPA's ADEPT P3 program, which was messenger RNA vaccines to end pandemics, that was 2012. So I don't know why 10 years, and maybe some legalistic explanation, but it's a long, complicated story. I think the best read on the timeline is the back half of Peter Breggin's book, COVID-19 and the Global Predators.
So it could be similar to what we're seeing with the bird flu, with how there's development happening and all that. I guess I got to lead back to that. Could the bird flu develop into something like COVID?
It could. Now, former CDC Director Redfield's been on TV saying, listen, they're 1 or 2 mutations away, and then we're off and running. with another pandemic, a pandemic this time that would broadly affect humans and animals. So it could be worse. That's the reason why it's so important for people now to get a handle on this and understand that God has provided us a solution for pandemics. It's natural immunity. It's not another genetic vaccine, and it's not locking down and essentially putting ourselves at war with organisms. Our natural immune system will get us through this. Skilled doctors and those in the healthcare system can provide other things that help, but I really want people to understand their immune system is the solution.
Yeah. What about the spike protein as far as the COVID? Because if you've had the COVID virus, you have the protein still in your body, right? So does your natural immune system fight against that spike protein all the time? And then every time you get it after that, it'll be less of a situation for you if you get it at all?
Bruce Patterson at IncellDX has found at least a fragment of the spike protein in people after COVID, no vaccine, people after COVID for at least a year and a half. It's stuck in white blood cells, the body's trying to get rid of it. We think getting rid of it is a good thing, and so Ultimate Spike Detox by Wellness Company is the evidence-based solution. That's nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin, probably a year or more. People have had COVID and they have some long COVID symptoms, ears ringing, don't feel well, blood pressure spiking, all different types of things like this. Ultimate Spike Detox. I'm personally doing it. I'm on over a year. I feel much better. My ears are finally stopped ringing. I'm running strong. And we're advising people now who have been on detox since our original publications in 2023, and they're tolerating it well, just to continue it indefinitely right now. We don't know what is going to be the next twist and turn in the pandemic. I've had people who've had COVID in 2021 or 2022, then in 2025, big blood clot, no vaccine. And we know that the spike protein causes blood clots.
Right.
TWC.health/endtime. I'll say it again, TWC.health/endtime. Use code endtime to get 10% off. If only there was some AI or technology that could customize treatment for us, Dr. McCollough. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, listen, I would like AI to just fetch the medical records, for crying out loud. When I see a patient and they say, well, I went to Mayo Clinic and I went to this university, I said, where's the records? Well, I don't know. And I want AI to be a fetcher and a synthesizer of people's medical records first. People have skipped all that basic blocking and tackling, and they said, well, AI would replace the doctor, and the AI would replace the drug company or the vaccine company, and AI would lead us to the generation of new products. Now, it is true that artificial intelligence has been used to study proteins on the surface of viruses. One recently for the human metapneumovirus, which is an outbreak in China, and there's already an AI-developed vaccine candidate for it. So AI can help accelerate. But what we've heard recently in this new project called Stargate is way beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just getting ready to say that I think the last time you were on, we talked about, what we talk about all the time, explaining current events through a lens of Bible prophecy. And so we'll highlight how in the book of Daniel, there's countries that are identified. They're identified in the book of Revelation as well. However, the United States is not part of that. And so we go, it's clear to us that the United States is not going to be part of that world government system, and we are going to oppose them. Well, we start seeing executive orders like we're pulling out of the World Health Organization, things like that, and we get excited, and then a few hours later there's a press conference talking about the Stargate and the mRNA vaccines and all that. You feel like you're watching a movie when there's villains on there that are billionaires that are about to solve all your problems supposedly, but it turns out bad. So what were you thinking when you saw that announcement with Stargate and all the things that came out there?
We have two posts on our Courageous Discourse Substack. One is McCollough Foundation epidemiologist Nick Hulsher on with Brandon House with an analysis, and then John Leake, best-selling author and historian. A couple points here. Everyone sees artificial intelligence as a technology race, almost like a race to the moon.
Right.
Who can get there first? So there's a competitive juices are flowing. We want to do it before the Chinese do. Okay, well, that's good. Competition is good. I like that spirit. You've got the U.S. government and a new president who likes deals. He likes technology. He likes big dollars and big companies. And you've got some big companies that are saying, listen, we want to do something.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you're a president? You know, would you push these guys off and potentially let China or other organizations become the major sponsor, or would you bring them in? So I think Trump did the right thing. He's bringing them in. Now, the explanations we've heard right now are just off. I'd rather, honestly, I'd rather have the explanation come from a doctor. So there was an explanation that, well, if you have a cancer, every single cancer is different, and artificial intelligence can, for you, design a vaccine product for your cancer. Well, part of that is right, that artificial intelligence could study all the different types of receptors and kinases and things in a cancer, but the treatment is unlikely to be a messenger RNA vaccine. Remember, a messenger RNA vaccine can make a protein per individual strand of messenger RNA. So even if you had a blend of them, you could make some different proteins, but you can't control how much of the protein is made, and you can't shut it off right now, and you can't control where it's distributed in the body. And right now, messenger RNA likes to go to the heart, where it causes heart damage. And almost every messenger RNA platform causes heart damage. So that's going to be the Achilles heel of using messenger RNA technology. But artificial intelligence could design protein treatments, peptide treatments that could be very beneficial. They could design small molecule therapies that may be very well tolerated, kinase inhibitors, growth factor inhibitors, etc. So what we heard in the initial Stargate presentation was kind of a non-doctor. I'm trying to think who it was. It was a big tech.
Larry Ellison.
Yeah, Larry Ellison. We need an upgrade on that. We need somebody with way more degrees to explain to people that, yes, this holds great promise because of this personalization.
Yeah.
Right now, if you have cancer, there's protocols, and everybody essentially gets the same protocol. And each cancer is said to be very different, so it makes a lot of sense to be personalized. The answer is almost certainly not going to be messenger RNA or not messenger RNA alone. Now, if messenger RNA in the future could be turned off with some type of molecular switch, and if it could be targeted to a tumor, then it's game on.
Okay. Well, I know that personally, when you hear the messenger RNA, it's scary right now for a lot of people, because it seems like those who were injected with this for the COVID vaccine, that it's almost as if the body began to attack itself and their immune system gets messed up and everything else. Is it, just for me, because I have no idea, an RNA shot, a messenger RNA shot, is it changing our DNA? Because I've heard so many different reports from people saying that changes your DNA. Is that really what it's doing?
One paper has shown it. The first author is Marcus Alden, senior author, Yang de Marinis, Malmo, Sweden. The center part of Pfizer, the code, got into human DNA, in a human hepatoma level. So it happened. So it's real. Now, we don't know what happens from there. Does the entire code get in? Does the human body edit it out? What are the implications? No one knows. It's never been replicated. It's never been refuted. I mean, we should have an all-hands-on-deck genotoxicity set of studies, since so many people took these. And if messenger RNA is being proposed for influenza, it's already out there for respiratory syncytial virus, Norwalk virus, and on and on and on. Boy, we ought to know if this gets into the human genome.
Yeah.
And if it does, do we edit it out? 10% of the human genome is non-human. That's known. It's typically in a region called the HERV region. So, for instance, you get chickenpox, you've got that for life.
Yeah.
You've got herpes, you've got that for life. Epstein-Barr virus and some others. So we pick up some non-human genetic code. The goal is for us to quarantine this off or cordon it off so it doesn't take over our body.
So when I think about what they presented with Stargate and Larry Ellison specifically, there's stories been released about him some time ago about surveillance and how this could be similar to the Chinese social credit. Do you have any opinion on that?
You know, this idea that we need more surveillance, I honestly think is ludicrous. Do you remember back in the Chicago World's Fair, 19th century, Eric Larson wrote about this, Devil in the White City. Do you know that several thousand Americans disappeared at the World Fair?
No.
Yeah,
No.
they showed up and they decided to take up with new partners or take on a new life, and they literally disappeared. It's in Eric Larson's book. Wow. We had no surveillance. Somebody who lived in New York who came to Chicago and then took up with a new partner could end up in Kentucky. No one would ever know. There's no surveillance. Well, let me tell you what. A child is missing for 2 hours anywhere in this country, you get an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Okay? I guarantee it. If you've stepped out of this studio without your cell phone, you'd be back to get it in 2 seconds.
Right.
We have a massive amount of surveillance in our country. We don't need to figure out where we are at any given time. Everyone is surveilling everyone else. What people are concerned about is that these genetic tools could be used to assess in some way compliance with something.
Yeah.
You know, were you compliant in taking a vaccine? Were you compliant with taking a medication?
Yeah.
Were you compliant with something else? I mean, there, you know, it's limitless in terms of what's there. And a lot of people said, listen, we have our inalienable rights. That is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and bodily autonomy. That is a sphere that can't be violated. We saw this with mandates. And I tell you, if I had any top aspiration for the new administration, Robert F. Kennedy, HHS, and the doctors that have been installed so far, is to get rid of all forms of health mandates, all of them. Requirements for vaccines to attend school or employment or the military, gone. People want their own sovereignty over their bodies.
Well, yeah, I think there was a WEF doctor, and I think he was with, I think it was the guy that was with Pfizer, wasn't it, Vince, that we had the video where he was talking about taking the vaccine, RA vaccine, that had a tracker in it so that they could tell that the person, the participant, had taken the vaccine. So it was like they were going to put that in the pill, and you would take that pill, and then they would know that you've been, you know, you've been compliant to what they were wanting to do. And this was a WEF interview where he was saying this is the future, this is where we're moving to. And so a lot of people, that's what they were afraid of with the mRNAs, is maybe this was a way to track. And that's kind of where I think the Stargate fear is coming from, because Ellison supposedly has that idea too. He talked about people being compliant by, you know, being able to track them through these vaccines.
Well, tracking, or just more broadly, permanent change in our body.
Yeah.
So if you take a blood pressure pill for a month and you stop it, it doesn't cause a permanent change in your body. Take an antibiotic for an infection, it's not a permanent change. But boy, if you take a shot of a genetic code, so far, we have no evidence that Pfizer or Moderna or AstraZeneca or Janssen, that it ever gets out of the body.
Wow.
So those shots alone could be a permanent change. We measure antibodies against the spike protein. We find ample evidence that the body is still responding to the spike protein from the vaccine. And so the issue is permanent change.
Yeah.
Now, regarding tracking, though, I have to tell you, the Center for Disease Control website is a treasure trove of just extraordinary, you know, observations. Do you know, on their website, early on in the pandemic, when they were rolling out the vaccines, the CDC website had this statement: the vaccines don't have any nano trackers in them. There's no nano chips in there. Why would they do that? Why would they put that statement out there? All it's going to do is raise suspicion.
Right.
Well, and that, so we talk about the mark of the beast, you know, a chip being inserted into the hand or the forehead. Do you see a time when that, I mean, it seems like, to me it seems like it's possible, but from a doctor's perspective, do you see a time when that would be possible, that people would be willing to do that?
Well, people have their animals chipped, right? So it's already in veterinary medicine. People have hip replacements, knee replacements, pacemakers that give telephonic information. You know, if I was to be a futurist for a moment, I would predict this. that in our lifetime, and by the way, our generation has seen the biggest velocity of change.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone from paper and pencil in our generation to right now you have computers in front of you. I predict in the future, at some point in time, which I will celebrate, we're going to be off keyboards. We will no longer touch a keyboard. They will become obsolete. Okay, there'll be other ways of transmitting the information. And now we're down to screens and phones. Are we going to be always with the phone and try? No, I think we're going to get off those completely. And that means some form of a chip or an eyeglass or something that's just behaviorally and mechanistically easier, and the information will flow.
I'm sure you've seen with Elon Musk's company, the gentleman that had a chip implanted in his brain, Neuralink, in his brain, and he's just looking at his computer and it's typing whatever he's thinking. You seen those videos? That's
it. There was an announcement the other day. It was up on Instagram, if you want to trust Instagram announcements, but it looked attractive, that that a bionic eye was really ready to go for the blind.
Yeah. Well, and they've talked about that with Neuralink. Yeah. Install that, you'll be able to see if you've been blind your whole life. Yeah.
Well,
they're working on it.
Isn't the movie, and I believe the date was 1990, so we're talking 35 years ago, isn't the movie Matrix amazing?
There's no way that came out in 1990.
I believe so. Can you guys check it out?
I feel so much older than...
The Matrix, think about this.
It was around the
I mean,
90s.
we're using the term red pill. Remember Neo being presented, the red pill or the blue pill?
Yeah.
Remember it being plugged into the Matrix where you're laying there and yet you could be kung fu fighting out in the Matrix?
Yeah.
Wow! I mean, that was breakthrough. I mean, to talk about prescient, right?
Yeah,
we don't know where it's going to go. We've gone from paper and pencil, of which mankind has been there for centuries, to very, very quickly now to this age of information. Right now, the current burden is the keyboard, I think, and the eye strain, and we're going to quickly go. I can't wait to where I walk into an exam room, and it'll be like Iron Man, where it just says, you know, EKG up, labs up, and I just flip my hand and the information is there. I make decisions. It's all recorded. And,
well, even with the meta glasses, they're saying that they're using that, and you can walk down the street and it'll capture someone's face and it'll scan the internet and it'll give you the information through the glasses where that person's from and some of their social activity.
See, that's the reason why I don't think we need implanted trackers. There's already too much information. You remember, sadly, that United Healthcare CEO who was gunned down in New York City. Did you see how fast the apprehension was just based on using facial recognition?
Yeah.
You didn't need a tracker on that guy. They got him within a couple days.
Yeah.
Well, additional unbelievably breakthrough information. Another executive order that says that there's only 2 genders.
Oh my gosh. Today my wife read something on Instagram. Someone said, I'm so relieved this executive order came out. There's only 2 genders. I'm glad I'm one of them.
No doubt.
Right.
Very importantly, though, things had really gotten out of control. You know, in 2021, the American Medical Association put out guidance that we shouldn't put gender on birth certificates. We've been doing this, obviously, for centuries, right? Blue is for a boy and pink is for a girl. And, you know, gender, of course, is inherent, and people are born boys or girls. They're not born anything else but. And so we now have seen this full madness of transgender medicine, which, and by the way, transgender medicine for under age 18 in the published peer-reviewed literature is sterilizing, disfiguring. It increases the burden of psychiatric care and increases mortality from all causes. It is a horrendous journey for the kids to undergo. They must be protected by law. 25 states protect them. This recently went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, the read is that they will fall on the side of protection of children. Parents can not be protective enough over this threat of transgender medicine for the children.
Wow. And I think I saw an interview where Elon Musk lost a child to puberty blockers because that child committed suicide. And he said he had no idea the effects that would have and on his child, and I can't
well,
remember.
To clarify, I'm not sure he committed suicide. I don't think he did.
Okay.
But he had a son, I believe, who got a few shots of Lupron, which is the most common puberty blocker, and I researched this. In fact, I tagged Musk on a tweet. Sadly, just a few shots of puberty blockers permanently retards mental development, cognitive development. And Musk used the term woke mind virus. And it's true. What people need to know is that children, particularly autistic children, tend to have feelings of not being comfortable in their body, feeling ostracized. They're very suggestible. So if they're flooded with pornography in the schools, they are flooded with information that's confusing them, that maybe they should change their genders, that they are the ones who are part of this transgender journey. It's not normal kids who, identify with their parents and they grow up in a normal environment. It's largely autistic children, sadly, and which an autism is skyrocketing. That's what's fed this, the sexual indoctrination, and then the willingness of the medical community. Now, I assisted our Attorney General Ken Paxton in our permanent ban on transgender in Texas under age 18.
Yeah,
I was the medical expert, and 3 doctors at my former institution, UT Southwestern, have felt so compelled they violated the ban and still have done these transgender medicines and procedures on children. Now Paxton is suing them.
Good.
We have about 2 minutes left. We want to get one more question in if we can. Totally different subject, but I'm sure you saw Mel Gibson's comments on Rogan about ivermectin and cancer. Any thoughts to share on that?
Too early to declare ivermectin or fenbendazole for cancer. There's great enthusiasm because ivermectin's been such a great performer during the pandemic. I want to caution people to let's look for large, prospective, randomized trials. They have to come, or careful registries. Anybody who's going to try doing this, it should be in addition to everything else that would be considered conventional cancer care right now. We don't want to see the enthusiasm with ivermectin lead to, unfortunately, some cancers that could have been saved through conventional means.
Doug, anything to add on that?
I feel like we've got so much information today. It's really great information. I mean, it's just been a great show. I'm sure the chat was blowing up in there. So.
Well, I always feel like when we talk to Dr. McCollough that he's one of us. It's like he could be on the Endtime Show regularly because we're talking about the same things.
Most definitely.
We obviously come at it from a different spin most of the time. But when we talk about the World Health Organization, world government, we talk about world religion, of course, we talk about transgenderism and all these things, it just ties in. So we're so grateful that you joined us again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. McCollough, don't forget, all of you out there, go to twc.health/endtime. Be sure to use code endtime. Get that contagion kit and whatever else you'd like from the wellness company, twc.health/endtime. Thank you for joining us again. God bless you. Don't forget there's thousands of hours of content available for free at endtime.com and watch.osn.tv. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time. God bless.